Well, we started work on this project, A Woman Changed into a Fox, over a year ago, and I would love you to just reflect on some of the things that you discovered and some of the odd things you were asked to do in that workshop. What things stood out for you?
Well, there were a lot of things that that we did that were kind of unusual, in that all the actors were involved in the process of creation of the story and of the pieces. Some of the things I remember are doing simultaneous monologue, where Pam and I would sit there and talk about the same thing from a different character's point of view. We didn't even really know what our character was at that point. But we each tried to pick up on words that the other one spoke, and maybe some actions that the other one did. And it's amazing the kind of emotions that come out of that you don't even realize are there until you start speaking. It's very unusual for an opera singer to be in this kind of process where we're doing the improvisation, because usually the opera is already there, you know, the words are there, the music is there, the emotion is in the music and the words, and so you just have to discover what that is. But in this case, there were no words, there was no music, and so we were helping to come up with some of the pieces, the elements that would be involved in production.
Well, I remember reading your description of it, I think in an initial email I got about it, and I think what stood out to me the most was the collaborative nature of the piece, as well as the combination of styles that were described. I mean, these are my initial impressions that I had, but that it was something very much oriented towards receiving the input of the performers and creating something that was suited to each individual performer, as well as the fact that it was to combine an array of styles musically, and I think in terms of movement it was to incorporate a lot of different things. That's how I understood it, and it to be a very unique collaborative project that suited me. My background is certainly in opera, but I love singing a lot of different styles, not just opera, so I was excited about that, as well as the movement component.
It was wonderful to have, again, a germ of an idea and to play with it, to see how word games or being an animal and how that would change the dynamics between people, you know, an inner animal and an outer animal. And it was just, it was very, very exciting. Simultaneous monologue, which I've never done before, and Laura and I would talk about Sylvia, and from our different characters' perspectives, you know, who she was, and listening to each other and picking up on a word, picking up on a hand gesture. It's really, really exciting.
Well, last spring we worked on a workshop presentation, which we did for our first audience in front of music stands. So we were really focusing on the music of the first part of the work, Woman Changed into a Fox. And what did you learn having that go before an audience for the first time?
I remember one thing that we did. I have a character, Nancy, which is the maid, and you had words, and Robert said to me, okay, just sing it. And so using that characterization to just sing the music that there were when there was no music was kind of interesting. Saying, you know, well, she would be like this, and you know, she would be kind of playful, and her physicalization is very different than my other character, which would be, you know, kind of older and a little less steady, a little less playful.
And the housekeeper in the first part of the play, in the second part of the play, I'm sort of Sylvia and Tebrick's worst nightmare, because the fox is being hunted and I become the lady of the hunt, so I'm in charge of all that. And so we were experimenting with horse moves, and so being a human being from the waist up but being a horse from the waist down, and on very high platform shoes, and it was really exciting, really fun. So a lot of things just came out from that.
In this last iteration, we brought a choreographer in from the Czech Republic in August, and we had her work with us, and we primarily worked on movement. In fact, we had some pieces that weren't quite finished yet, and some pieces we were just exploring sort of in their very rawest of forms, and yet we were throwing all of you singers onto your feet with very complex choreography. And what did you learn from working with our friend Marenka?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was just to see the things that she came up with, that, you know, physicalizing a lot more of the music, but in a different way than most opera physicalization. We tend in opera to have things happen because of the music, or, you know, to go along with the music. And in her case, it was actions that didn't really follow the music. And it was kind of difficult to do, because we're so used to, okay, now on this beat we do this.
You point.
yeah, because it's an action and it follows a loud beat in the music. But in this case, you point, and there's not a particular beat in the music that you point on. And it was more coming from the emotion and from the inner turmoil, I guess, that was a little contrary to what we normally do. But it's more organic.
Oh my goodness. Again, I'm such a physical actress and singer, and so that informs character for me so much. And this iteration in September was mostly about movement. Music had already been written, lyrics, script had already been written, but we were really focusing much more on the movement. And so that was interesting to watch how that information was taking people in different directions, and then coming together. Like, we did a piece that takes place in the household, in the Tebrick household, where we're all servants. And my character's in charge of all the servants, and so waiting for them, and then having precise movements in mime. It's so exciting, because it brought the household together, so we had a real feel of what that's like to be serving together.
Oh, that was quite remarkable. It was beyond what it did for the work in the piece. It was moving. It was eye-opening, enlightening. She was an amazing performer, an amazing dancer, mover, and communicated what she does so well.
In terms of sharing that process with an audience in early stages, how was that for you? Is this something that is useful, is important? It's a question that I have with the Alliance, you know, what the role of the Alliance is.
To tell you the truth, I was a little nervous about it, because I was like, I'm not ready. I don't want them to see an unfinished product. You know, you're too vulnerable, and you haven't set things yet, and it's all experimental. And what if they hate it? You know, and you're just so open and vulnerable, because that's what happens in rehearsals, is that you create a safe place for everybody to experiment, to try new things, to do something they've never done before, to sing notes they've never sung, or act in ways they've never acted, and whatever, move in ways that they've never done before. So it still needs to be a safe place, and you created that for the audience. You said, we're still in rehearsal. We may stop something that's not going right. We may decide to move in a different way, you know, a different direction. So just, you know, go with us.
for a performer, it's just always wonderful. It's just always wonderful to have people there to receive what you're, sending out. So in that sense, it was really just fulfilling and rewarding.
And finally, where do you think the piece is now? What do you think our next steps are? What changes do you think we need to make?
The challenge for us is to find that balance between finished and still alive and still vibrant and still making sense the way it's evolved. And it could go on for a very long time if you let it, but I'm hoping that we
Find the balance.
Find a balance and find an end product.
So for you, what do you want?
For the score to be finished.